Etan Thomas has made his mark far beyond the boundaries of his 11 years in the NBA. Known as the activist athlete, Thomas defies the stereotypes of the apolitical athlete, planting his roots in his formidable literary career, passion for mentoring, and civic engagement. Born in Harlem, New York, and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Thomas has honored for social justice advocacy as a recipient of the 2010 National Basketball Players Association Community Contribution Award, as well as the 2009 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Foundation Legacy Award. Thomas has written 3 books, including More Than an Athlete, Voices of the Future, and Fatherhood, Rising to the Ultimate Challenge. His latest work, We Matter, Athletes and Activism, was released in March 2018 and was listed as one of the top 10 best activism books of all time by Book Authority. It also tied for Best Nonfiction for 2018 by the African American Literary Awards. Following the talk, there will be limited copies of We Matter available for purchases. Thomas currently writes for The Guardian and has previously written for The Washington Post, Huffington Post, CNN, ESPN, HoopsHype.com, and Slam Online. He frequently can be seen on MSNBC as a special correspondent for Hot Topics. Etan Thomas approaches his work fearlessly, never afraid to voice his opinions. He jumps at the opportunity to support civic engagement, especially for under-resourced populations. He's been called the gentle giant like myself, a rebounder with a cause also like myself. It is a pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker, Etan Thomas.
How's everybody doing? All right, I'm too tall for the mic. Let me just. I know he has that problem too, just tall people problems. So I'll just sit down. Everybody good? Everybody all right? All right, cool. I'll just sit down. Stayed up a little late last night watching the show You. Have you ever heard of You? I couldn't put it down. It was like crazy, but I couldn't stop watching it. So let me just sit down. But no, thanks for that wonderful introduction. So, I played for 11 years in the NBA. And throughout those years, I kind of realized that I have a voice and I have a platform. So when I grew up, I admired watching athletes and learning about athletes like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Russell, Muhammad Ali, athletes that use their position as a platform. You know what I mean? To speak out for people who necessarily didn't have the voice or the platform to be able to speak out. And I just kind of kept doing it. And I started doing it in like high school. So in high school, I was playing ball. I got into speech and debate. Anybody here did speech and debate? Nobody here speech and debate? There we go. We got one hand. Yeah, speech and debate. All right, there we go. It's not just me. But I started writing speeches and going around Tulsa, Oklahoma, speaking on different topics. And I started getting a lot of attention because I was an athlete speaking on those topics. So it just kind of clicked as far as, wow, there's something to this. Like, I can really connect with different organizations and kind of further their cause, and people will listen just because I'm an athlete. So I just kind of kept doing that through college and through my years in the NBA. So with the book, We Matter, what I did with it was I wanted to interview a lot of athletes currently who are using their voices and speaking out on different things. So I interviewed like Eric Reed, who was kneeling with Kaepernick the whole time, with Dwayne Wade and Russell Westbrook and Carmelo, all people that people know currently. But then I wanted to go back and speak to the athletes from the past, that I grew up admiring. So like Bill Russell and Kareem was really cool to be interviewing these guys because I grew up like just reading about them. I grew up with John Carlos's like poster on my wall, and to interview him, it was absolutely amazing. But the question is, what does it mean to be able to speak out and stand up for what you believe? And so right now, as we're celebrating Dr. King's birthday, and it's interesting as the different interpretation of what that actually means. A lot of times with Dr. King, you get a certain version of Dr. King. You get the I Have a Dream speech, you know what I mean? And that's pretty much it. But there was so much more to Dr. King than just the I Have a Dream speech. Many different things that he stood for and fought for and everything like that. And I wanted to be able to speak to what it means to you. I'm not going to just sit here and lecture you. That's not my thing. I want an active discussion. So I just came from, last week I spoke at a Horace Mann middle school in New York. And I spoke with Eric Gardner's daughter. So one thing that I did with my book was I connected with different family members of the victims of police brutality. And I do different events with them and help push their cause and help be able to, raise money for their foundations and fight to get laws changed. And all of them have this passion now for changing laws and changing things so what happened to them, their loved one, doesn't keep happening. So Trayvon Martin's brother, Terrence Crutcher's sister, Philando Castile's mother and sister, I interviewed them, so I do a lot of work with them. So Eric Garner's daughter, we spoke at this middle school. And a lot of the people couldn't really relate to the issue that she was bringing to them because it wasn't their world. And I understand that. And because when I get stopped by the police, my first thought isn't, I hope I can get out of this ticket. That's not my first thought. That's not my concern. It doesn't even cross my mind. My thought is I have to make sure that I do everything to de-escalate this situation so this policeman isn't afraid of me and pulls out his gun. That's my thought. And it's unfortunate that that's where we are in society, and I understand that it's not a lot of people's world. So I remember Bill O'Reilly would always say, well, I get stopped by the police. I just follow the rules and, obey their commands and everything's fine. I'm like, yeah, but your experience when you get stopped by the police is a lot different than mine. There's two totally different things. I'll give you an example. I coached my son's AAU team. And, just maybe 2 weeks ago, when you're an AAU coach, you end up just taking a whole lot of guys home. That's just what happens, right? So I'm taking a whole lot of guys home, and we get stopped by the police. And so, we're stopped by the police, and automatically I start going into the mode that I know of that I have to do when I'm stopped by the police. So I turn the music down, I roll the window down, I turn the interior lights on, put my phone here, put it on record, take my wallet out and put it on the dashboard, get the registration put on the dashboard so I don't have to reach too much, and I get my hands on 10 and 2, away from the car, right? So I'm doing it all, and they're all looking at me like, because they can't drive yet, so they don't really know these rules yet. So they're watching me do all of this, and then so the policeman comes up, I'm like, how you doing, officer? License and registration. I'm like, okay, my license, my registration is on my dashboard. Is it okay if I reach for it? And he said, yes. So then the other officer from this side had his flashlight on my hand, and I slowly, not quickly, slowly had to go and reach for it, and then slowly gave it back to him. And put my hands right back in 10 and 2, right? So he said, stay right there, then he left. So my son, who's chilling with me, he was like, why you have to do all that? You know what I mean? I was like, just relax, just wait, let's see what happens. So it came back, it turns out that I had a tail light that was out. He told me to get the tail light fixed, and then told me to go on, go about my business. So afterwards, we were all talking. And he was like, my son, Malcolm, he was like, you shouldn't have had to do all that. Like, what was all that? And I was like, well, you have to understand, I have to do all that. So if I don't, the whole situation can be different. The whole situation with them coming there, it turns into this intense moment, right, where they're on edge, and if I don't de-escalate it, tragedy can happen. So my number one goal is to get everybody in this car home safely. And so it turned into a big discussion, and one guy, Kamar, was kind of upset about it, another one started telling his experience when his older brother, I guess didn't necessarily follow that rule, but he started arguing back with the cop, and then what happened, he didn't do anything wrong, and he's like, look, I didn't do anything wrong, why are you pulling me over? I was like, yeah, we can't do that. You know what I mean? So one other guy read, he said, well, I've seen videos of white kids going off on the police and yelling at them, cussing them out. I was like, yeah, we can't do that. It's like, listen to what I'm saying. You cannot do that or you will not make it home. So the conversation turned into, how that's not fair. And that's not the way that it should be. And this is so unfair. And I was like, yeah, we're not talking about how things should be, we're talking about reality of what it is. So while I'm here still going different places, lobbying for laws to be changed, talking to different police departments, all the time doing things for laws to be changed to have, a different protocol for police officers and things of that nature, the reality of right now is that we have to do this in order to make sure that we get home safe. So it's those kind of discussions that as I go around speaking in different places, I share, and it's not the experience of a lot of the people in the audience, right? Because that's not what you have to do. You don't have to do it, and that's great to be in that position. But be able to understand that there is another world that exists. So in my book, as I'm interviewing different athletes and they're telling about different situations that they've been in, when they've had to experience this, and how Dwayne Wade is, talked about how after Trayvon Martin was killed, how much he feared for his sons. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if you remember afterwards, Geraldo Rivera said it was the hoodies, and if young black kids wear hoodies, they're going to be looked at menacing and everything like that. And he was like, wait a minute, my kids wear hoodies all the time. Like, that's not fair. So it's like he was in fear of his sons being, stereotyped because of the hoodies. I mean, for me, I put a hoodie on my son Malcolm, it was just like Trayvon Martin. You know what I mean? But hearing different athletes talk about that made it resonate a little bit more. Now, yeah, of course, it's like, it shouldn't take athletes saying that to get people's attention. Yeah, I understand that, but it's just different. So Russell Westbrook, he talked about when he was in Oklahoma City with the Thunder, and how, he's playing in the arena, and everybody's chanting his name, and they're wearing his jersey, and their kids have this poster up on their wall and everything like that, but as soon as he leaves the arena, and a policeman pulls him over, if he doesn't recognize him and is a fan and everything like that, is he gonna look at him, like he looked at Terrence Crutcher? So if you don't know the story of Terrence Crutcher, his car was broken down on the side of the road, and the policeman came up to him. He thought that he was helping him, and the policeman actually was there because they thought that something was wrong. They ended up killing him. So that's what he was referring to, and it's just the thought that athletes have these thoughts and this fear and have to live by a different code is something that, as I'm going around traveling with my book, has been like shocking to a lot of people in mainstream America. Because a lot of people thought that athletes, are in this like kind of protective bubble. Like they don't have to deal with the problems of everybody else. And, hearing different athletes talk about that has been really surprising. And it's interesting because one of the things that I've seen is as we've been going around and doing this, and a lot of times I connect with different athletes and we do these different talks. And during the feedback, we always talk about allies. People who, it might not be their reality, but they can stand up and say it's wrong and that is a reality for anybody. And how important allies are. So a lot of times right now in society, it's like, okay, if that's not my problem, it's not really my concern. That's just the honest truth. If you're looking at politically, they look at, okay, how does this particularly pertain to you? And if this doesn't directly pertain to you, you're not worried about it. And that's on both sides, the right and the left, pretty much do that. And there's a thing called empathy. And, I watched the movie Selma with my daughters. And I heard y'all just watched Selma, right? So you saw in Selma where, and I'll tell you honestly, right? So this is my daughter, 9-year-old baby Sierra, watching Selma, and she's watching it, and she's getting upset. And she was like, "This is messed up." I was like, "Right, just keep watching. Are you okay? Checking with her, everything." And she's like, "This is really messed up." So all of this just because they went to vote. Like all of this happened, all of this, they're protesting, and the police come in and beat them down, and almost kill somebody, all this stuff just because they wanted to vote. I'm like, yeah, just keep watching. You know what I mean? And she was like, well, were any other white people in favor of black people voting? This is what she asked me. And I was like, keep watching. My daughter's somebody who asks questions throughout the entire movie. Like the whole movie, she's on content. So then she got to the part where they reached out to different allies. Y'all saw this in the movie, right? So then all the allies came, and all the different clergy from all across the country came, and they stood with them. And then I looked at her, she's like, Okay, good, that's good. You know what I mean? So then they all stood together and how powerful it was. You know what I mean? And how other people throughout the country started to be able to hear the message because of the allies. And that's what's really important now. You know what I mean? No matter what the cause is, no matter what we're talking about, when you can reach across the table and reach the different allies and you can band together, you know what I mean? There's so much stuff that can get done. Right now, I mean, we're so divided. You know what I mean? This group right here that has this cause and only deals with this group. And this group right here has this cause and only deals with this group. And there's 25 different causes, right? 25 different groups, but they don't work together. And that's the thing where, you know, when we work together, you know what I mean, so much more can get done, and this group can help this group. And even though what this group's issue isn't this group's issue, right? This doesn't necessarily pertain to them, right? But they can stand with this group and vice versa, and things can get done. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what needs to happen more. So I'm encouraging more, you know, as I'm going around and speaking different schools and everything like that, to be able to use your voice. It's a beautiful time right now. You know, so for a little while, things were a little bit quiet. A lot of people weren't using their voices. This is just all across, not just in athletes, but all across. You know, I mean, there's a period, if you go back, okay, the 60s, everybody's using their voice. 70s, this kind of changed, and the topics kind of changed. The 80s, everybody got back to using their voice. So you got, you know, Public Enemy, all the different music was all talking about fight for your rights. You know, you had NWA, who said it a little differently, but they still were saying, you know what I mean, stand up and fight for what you believe in. Then you had a little shift, you know what I mean, then everything, the culture was different, but now, everything is kind of back to young people using their voices. And then the way that y'all got social media. See, like, imagine if, like, Muhammad Ali had a Twitter account. You know what I mean? That would have been amazing. But y'all have all of this power. And the way I spoke at the, I participated. I didn't speak at it. I participated at a, what was it called? It's a March for Our Lives. Y'all heard of that? Okay. When I tell you it was amazing, all organized by young people in DC, thousands of people, it was wonderful. And their whole goal was against gun violence. So all the things that was going on with gun violence and the mass shootings and everything like that, so it was amazing, organized by young people, and they're changing things. You know what I mean? And I think it's absolutely beautiful to see. So activism doesn't always look one way. When people think of activism, they think of one thing comes to their mind. Right? Activism, it's not just one simple way. So anybody can be an activist. It's just standing up and organizing and for what you believe in. So wait, I can talk all day, but I want to get an interaction discussion. All right. So right now, what I'm gonna do, I want to take questions. I want us to have a conversation now. All right. So even if you disagree, and this is the one thing that's different in this society, we're afraid to disagree with each other. It's like the line has to be drawn in the sand. And you're on this side, and I'm on this side. Right? That's just the way that it is. No matter the topic, you're pro, I'm con. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, you're for this topic, and I'm against this topic. And we don't talk. And then we don't talk to hear each other. You know, it's interesting, I spoke at University of Penn, not Penn State, UPenn, right? And we had a great discussion about politics. Fantastic discussion on politics. Right? And so I did the same thing, and I said, it's okay to disagree. So we can disagree. So the teacher was kind of like, you know, they were like, okay, I don't know if this is going to go well. I'm like, no, relax, it's cool. We get, you know, so I threw out a topic, and then we debated. One person said one thing, one person said the other thing, and we just kept talking. And then it was interesting because the students said, okay, I see where you're coming from with your view, right? And the other one said, I see where you're coming from with your view, it at least makes sense. Now, I still have my view, but I can at least understand where you're coming from. And that's a huge step. Because it's not like you're the enemy, you just have a different view on something. You understand what I'm saying? All right, so don't be shy. Are y'all shy? Are y'all shy? Okay, all right, a little bit shy. Understand it completely. Don't be shy. But let's now have a conversation, all right, about whatever you want to have. We're talking about how you see what Martin Luther King's dream means today. You know what I mean? What you see the issues being. If you disagree with something that I said. If you disagree with everything that I said. I want to hear it. All right? Let's go. First question. Who's going to be the first brave soul? There we go. Brave soul.
organize it, like what policy? How do you change protocol? We was thinking, what protocol can avoid that? How do you specifically avoid that while these people are law enforcement?
Right. Fantastic question. Fantastic question. And so this is how we're approaching this with people that I'm working with. So one of the people I'm working with is Tiffany Crutcher. She's this Terrence Crutcher's sister, who I told you about. Let's go about the police. And her method is changing the laws. So what she thinks is that you can't change the hearts of people. That this is what she said. She said it's kind of a waste of the time to try to keep pushing for police officers to have sensitivity training and knowing different cultures and things like that. She's kind of past that. So what she wants to do is be able to change the actual laws to where there's different protocol, just what you said, that has to happen when the policeman engages a person. So you can't just say, I was in fear for my life, and then that be it. So in her specific case, Betty Shelby, the officer who killed her brother, during the trial, she just repeated that statement over and over again. So they said, okay, well, did you see, did he make an immediate threat? Like, did he advance to you? Did he disobey your commands or anything like that? And she just kept repeating, I was in fear for my life. So the way that the Tulsa, Oklahoma laws are written is that that's all that a policeman really has to say. They don't have to even show any type of burden of proof of why they were in fear for their life. You know what I mean? So then there's another part where it says, well, there has to be a reasonable I'm trying to think of how it's actually phrased, reasonable suspicion or something like that, that is duplicated by another officer. Well, there was another officer that was in a helicopter. So they're looking down at the situation, and they said, oh yeah, he looked like a bad dude, quote unquote. That's what he said. So that was the verification that they needed, and then that was it. So what Tiffany Crutcher is trying to do, and what she has successfully done, is that there has to be more that is shown that she was actually in an immediate threat. Because a lot of times, in different police departments, that's like the first option is to pull out the gun. There's not like an option of a stun gun, there's not an option of a yelling a command or anything like that, but the first time, the case of Tamir Rice? So Tamir Rice was he was a 12-year-old kid. He was in Ohio. He was playing with a toy gun in a park. It was a toy gun. And the policeman, drove up on him, jumped out the car, boom, 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 started shooting, right? And so the policeman got off, and because of the fact that he felt that there was an immediate danger, so he didn't need to yell out a command like freeze. Or he didn't need to yell out a command like drop your gun, or anything like that. Now, it turned out it was a toy gun, you know what I mean? But changing the laws would say that you have to be able to at least yell out a command first. You know what I mean? So different protocol changing. So a lot of people right now, they're pushing for the protocols to change, but the problem is police departments all work independently. So it's not like federal law where all of them have to follow this one guideline. So while you fight and you have, okay, this department has to have body cameras, right? But then this police department has body cameras, but they can turn them on and off, which kind of defeats the purpose, right? So each one presents its own issues, and that becomes some of the problem, but it's a constant fight. And the thing that's so impressive about all of these family members of the victims of police brutality, they've all pushed for different fights in their collective places. You see mothers that have ran for office in different cities because they want things to change. And, it's sometimes it's heartbreaking because changes come so small. You know what I mean? So like little changes. But you just have to keep fighting. And that's what Dr. King was about. You know what I mean? He just kept fighting. There's so many times where it looked like, black people were never going to get the right to vote. That it was a lost cause. You know what I mean? It was just need to give up. All right, it's not going to happen. And, they just did. All right, next question.
A couple of years ago, there was the whole issue of a reporter telling LeBron James to shut up and dribble, and started the whole movement for the athlete movement. And so I'm just curious if that affected the way you associate activism with being a professional athlete at all.
Definitely. So Shut up and dribble. Everybody heard the question? All right, so shut up and dribble isn't a new concept. So, you know, I interviewed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he talked about how he was at UCLA. He was part of a peaceful demonstration against the war in Vietnam, and he was told to shut up and dribble. You know, Bill Russell, who, you know, told me the story of when he was with the Celtics, and they went to play a preseason game down in Kentucky. And so they go to the game, and in the restaurant, they say, okay, the white players will come in, but black players, you gotta get to go through the back because this is a white-only establishment. And he said, well, you know, if we can't play here, if we can't eat here, we're not gonna play here. He said, you know what, everybody just get back on the plane, we're not playing here. And then they didn't play. And the reaction when they got back to Boston, now, you know, Bill Russell, they was winning championship after championship. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't lose. And he was told to shut up and dribble. And this is the thing. When somebody disagrees with you, that's when they tell you to shut up and dribble. That's when they tell you to stay in your lane, you don't know what you're talking about. But if they agree with you, then again, this happens both on the right and the left. I can't stress that enough. You know what I mean? This is a bipartisan issue right here, right? When they agree with you, then they applaud you. Look at this athlete who has the courage to be able to speak out on this topic. Let's have him on our shows and let's talk about it. Then it's all applause. But as soon as they disagree with you, then it's like, okay, you need to stay in your lane. You're not even qualified to be able to speak on this topic. And that's the thing where, you know, I'm pushing for athletes to continue using their voices. And to continue, people are not gonna like it. That's just the way it's gonna be. You know what I mean? Some people are gonna really like it, some people are gonna really, really not like it. You know what I mean? But the power of your voice, you know, and this is what I always tell athletes, if they didn't fear your voice, whoever they is, whatever the topic is, they wouldn't try so hard to silence you. All right. Next question.
Yeah, so to follow up to the comment you just made, how about among athletes? When I was growing up, it was Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley saying, Democrats and Republicans, they both buy shoes. And Barkley saying, I'm not a role model, I'm an athlete. Can you talk about sort of the athlete community, in terms of the shut up and dribble?
Well, things are a lot different from those days. So now you have the top athletes all using their voices. I mean, you have LeBron, who is the top basketball player. I mean, he's a top athlete. And he's been doing but he's been doing so much as far as using the voice. So he's dispelled that myth that if you do speak out, then somehow you're going to affect your career, affect your earning potential, affect your marketing dollars and everything like that. Because that was kind of the thought back then. But now, they're like, well, LeBron, it hasn't affected anything with him. He's, you know what I mean? He's still LeBron. He's still the #1 seller in every category and every topic. And he's using his voice about everything. And so I think right now you have a culture inside the athletic world and outside of it of young people who are not afraid to use their voice. And honestly, it's beautiful to see. Like, I love it. You know what I mean? And then also, athletes have social media now. So they don't have to go to a reporter to be able to interpret what they want to say. So I'll give you an example. When I was playing with the Washington Wizards, right when the invasion of Iraq happened, I wanted to speak out against it. I have very strong opinions about it. I was looking at it, I was like, wait a minute, why are we going to Iraq? 9/11 just happened. I was like, okay, I'm looking at it, I'm watching, George W. make the case. I'm watching Colin Powell try to say that we think we have weapons of mass destruction. I was like, think? Don't you gotta kind of know? You know what I mean? Before you just send everybody there. And my younger brother, they were younger than me, and his friends, a lot of them signed up, to go to the army, so they was being shipped overseas, and they were terrified. And I was like, wait a minute, you got these little babies going overseas, and why are we going here? So, and it was really, in hindsight, everything turned out okay, but at the time, I didn't necessarily think it all the way through, because, after 9/11, if you spoke out against the war in Iraq, it was like you was anti-American. That was it. You know what I mean? It was like the Dixie Chicks, it was like, Michael Moore, Cornel West, and like 2 other people. Nobody else was really speaking out, and like in the public. And of course, after a while, now you have Republicans and Democrats saying, okay, we should have gone in there, that was a mistake. But back then, so I got a strong reaction. And I was playing for the Washington Wizards in Washington, D.C. You know what I mean? Doing speeches at rallies in D.C. So I got so I played with Michael Jordan, right? You remember when Michael Jordan came out of retirement and played 2 years for the Washington Wizards? I was there. So every day, Michael Jordan got these big boxes of fan mail. Every day, all the time. These big boxes of fan mail. I would get a letter or two. Somebody from back home in Tulsa, or somebody in Syracuse, But after I spoke out against the war in Iraq, and it kind of went viral before going viral was really a thing, because remember, we didn't have social media. I started getting big boxes. And some of the letters were very complimentary, and some of them were very not complimentary. And so I'm reading them, and I'm like, ooh, I might need to get some security here or something. People are really upset. And it was everything to where you don't deserve to be in this country. You know what I mean? You don't deserve to be alive. You're ungrateful. All this stuff, what happens. And I was just like, wow, that's kind of strong just for you having a different opinion than I have. But that's where it is. You know what I mean? And right now, it's just that you can see everybody's opinion because, you can see the mentions. So but now you have a generation of young people who are fearless. They're like, I love it. It's like your generation, you're not worried about that. Whatever your cause is, you stand on it. And you tweet it out, and it's on social media. The way that y'all can move stuff on social media so quickly. I don't even understand, y'all watch Selma, right? They didn't have no social media. How did they even organize that to get everybody to be at the same place at the same time? You know what I mean? How did y'all do that? Y'all could just tweet everybody, be here, this time, boom, it goes all the way out. You know what I mean? They're I don't know how they did it, but, I just think it's a great time for activism. Next question. Right.
So you mentioned how LeBron James he speaks out himself, obviously, he set up his school and a lot of work, and he's still the most successful basketball player. But what about someone like Kaepernick who had spoken out or even made a movement with his body and was completely lost his career?
So a lot of times we talk about the difference between the NBA and the NFL, and it is a huge difference, right? So I interviewed the commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, in my book, and I asked him about some of those differences and what makes the NBA different. And he talked about how much that he actually values the athlete voice and the history of athletes using their voice and activism and things like that. NFL is just different. It is. So there is a risk. So you have even the top athletes take that, if they take a stand or something like that, it's like the ridicule is different. And then plus, they have non-guaranteed contracts. Everybody that knows the dynamics of football, that means that you're an employee at will. So if you come there the next day at practice and they can say, you know what, I don't like your face. I think we're going to just cut you or just restructure your contract. And then there's nothing you can do about it. You don't get the money. NBA, your money is guaranteed. So they cut you. You can cut me, but I still get paid. You know what I mean? So it's a lot easier to speak out when you have financial stability and security.
How often did you run into racist comments in the basketball court, especially in the NBA?
On the basketball court from other players?
Yeah.
No, not too much from other players. Now, when we were going to different places, we did for the crowd. And so it depends on, so all right, y'all saw the video that went viral of Russell Westbrook busting at the guy from Utah? Everybody saw that? All right, that kind of happened. That's why you saw from the reactions from the players, and they're like, oh, yeah, I know how it is in Utah. All the players said that because they've experienced that. We've had different times in college, going to high school, where there's a lot coming from the stands. I haven't heard it from different players. Players, you're focused on playing, and you have a mutual respect and everything like that, and then it's, the game is over. But from the stands, for all kinds of things. And it's so tough to be able to maintain control and not go completely off when you hear it. It's tough, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's very hard. But my coach was always like, what is the option? Think it through. What's gonna happen? You go back and confront the fan, and what's gonna happen? Is there anything that's gonna come good from that? You know what I mean? So It's not fair, but that's another one of those things that are the way that they are. You have to deal with them. But now, thank goodness, the NBA is trying to crack down on that a little bit. And, you know, they're escorting fans out of the game and they, you know, go out of line. But it has to be where a player kind of snaps before they react. So they're kind of reactionary into it instead of doing it before. But it's getting a little cool. Oh, right there.
Yeah, did you interview any women of color that are also athletes for your book?
Yes, very good question, very good question. Swing Cash, who played with the New York Liberty, I interviewed her, well, I interviewed a lot, Layla Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter, and Tanika Catchings, and Shanique Oswald. But I really like Swing Cash in particular, because if y'all remember what happened with the WNBA, and I did a whole section on them because I don't think that it was highlighted enough. What they did was really, it was dope. That's the only way I can say it. So after the back-to-back murders of Atlanta Castile and Alton Sterling happened, I don't know if y'all remember that. It was during one summer, and the WNBA plays in the summertime, right? So back-to-back murders, it was during their season, and they were devastated. Like all the different, you know, women in WNBA, they were devastated about what happened. And they were like, okay, we need to do something. So the Minnesota Lynx, when Philomena Castile was murdered in Minnesota, they wore these t-shirts, right? Y'all remember any of this? Okay, y'all might not remember, all right, cool. So they wore these t-shirts, and I think the t-shirt said, you know, Black Lives Matter, you know, something like that, right? So they went to the game and they all wore the t-shirts, the whole team together. And then the security officers and the police that were at the game all turned around and they left, right? So they like left their posts and didn't do whatever they're supposed to do in the game. So then the mayor came out. It was this big thing. The mayor came out and said, wait, they can't leave their posts. You can't do that again. But also, they can't wear those shirts again, right? So that's what the mayor said. So then it's like they had like a whole league-wide conference call. And then the next game, the entire league was wearing shirts, right? And I was just like, whoa, how did y'all get everybody to do it and be on the same page? Because, you know, like the NFL, you know, Kaepernick was kind of out there by himself for a while. You know, and then you have different things. You have certain people here, but literally the entire WNBA did it. I mean, they even have like, you know, like players who aren't even from here. You know what I mean? They don't even know what's going on. So I asked Swin, I was like, how did y'all do that? You know what I mean? Because I, you know, I've never really seen that before. And her response was like, well, you know, women do it differently. And I was like, okay, all right, I'll give you that, but tell me like for real. She was like, honestly, you know, we had a big conference call. Different players would come in and see the other players like hurting about something. They're like, okay, I don't know really what's going on, but I see that you're hurting. You know what I mean? I will learn about it and I'm gonna stand with you. And she's like, that's how it happened. It was just like literally, there was one conference call, you know what I mean? Big conference call we all had, and boom, it all happened. So then what happened after that? I'm a little excited about this, but I really think it was so cool. So then the WNBA commissioner said, okay, if anybody does that again, you'll be fine, right? Because you have to actually wear your uniform. According to the collective bargaining, before a game, you know, they got technical on it. So you have to wear your uniform. You can't wear another shirt outside the uniform. So then they had another conference call. And then they said, so some of the other players were like, okay, we can't really afford to be getting fined. We're already not making as much, you know, money already as it is. And the older players were like, listen, if you got fined, I'll pay your fine. Okay, we're gonna still do all this together, and we're gonna stay together. So the next time, they still all did it together. And then WNBA commissioner got on and made a statement. She's like, okay, well, we appreciate the WNBA players for using their voices, and we're not going to fine anybody. And, you know, I was like, they made the change. And it was like, the reason why they made the change is because they can't fire everybody. They can't fine everybody. You can't suspend everybody. You know what I mean? They all did it together. And there was nothing that they could do, so they just had to, like, force their hands. I just think that was so cool because you don't see that anywhere. You don't see that in other sports. You don't see none of the men that have done that. It's like a few here, a few there. And they're the ones that get ostracized, and they're the ones that take all the risks, and that's why we talk about them. But the whole WNBA did it. So, yeah, I definitely want to highlight that. All right, go for it.
Do you think schools nowadays are doing a good job of spreading this message? And do you think like education is the way out and the solution to the discrimination level some of us live in nowadays?
I think each school is different, and I think that some schools are and some schools aren't. You know, same way with police departments. Some police departments are doing a great job, some police departments aren't. And I think, you know, I don't want to tell you school, but I had a school invite me to come speak. And then they said, okay, we want you to speak for our MLK event, right? This is for Martin Luther King, right? They said, but we don't want you to talk about this. They listed like 10 things. And I was like, well, what is there left for me to talk about? You don't want me to talk about, you know, any protests, any Kaepernick, police brutality. They just named all the things. I was like, so what am I supposed to talk about? But see, some schools don't want, they want to suppress that because they're afraid. And so their fear is that it's kind of like what you heard where they were criticizing Kaepernick about dividing the locker room. You know what I mean? Well, if he speaks about this, another person has a different opinion, how are they going to be able to work together? Because they're going to have different opinions, which is completely false, right? But that's their fear. So they don't want to ruffle any feathers. Some, of course not all schools, but some schools, like the school that invited me, wanted to do. So they wanted to have a nice message. I was like, so what did you want me to speak about, right? They said, well, you know, kind of a kumbaya, everybody loves everybody. That's what we're looking for. I was like, are y'all serious? But they were dead serious. So it just depends on the school. Next question. In the back.
You keep mentioning Kaepernick, so first of all, I'm really curious about what you predict is going to happen to Kaepernick. I'm interested in what your conversations have led you to, but also in our 10th grade classrooms, we read last year Claudia Rankine's book called Citizen, and our 10th graders are starting it again right now. And we just read the section on Serena Williams. And so I wonder if you could if in your research, and I'm sure in your brain, you've thought about how Serena has had to navigate a predominantly white sport, and how she has been treated, and how her body and her behavior has really been sort of objectified by the media. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Serena.
Definitely. So in my book, I interviewed Jamel Hill. Everybody knows who Jamel Hill is? So we talked about that topic and about Serena. And I have two daughters, and I told the story in the book about my middle daughter Imani was watching Serena, watching her play, and the commentator said she doesn't have the right body type for tennis. That was his statement. And she said, wait a minute, hold on, pause the TV, Daddy. What did he just say? And why does he not have she has the right body type, what's wrong with her body type? And I was like, well, I can explain to you what he's saying, but you're not gonna like it, but this is what he's saying. And then she was like, well, wait a minute, why is there only one type for tennis? And so she then became the biggest Serena fan, of course. You know what I mean? And she started playing tennis, got a picture on the wall, everything like that. And Jamel Hill was talking about what that message sent to specifically young black girls. That your body type is wrong, that you have to be more Eurocentric in everything. And it's reinforcing that old, mentality that, anything that's black is wrong, anything that's close to the white is right. And so that created a different level of scrutiny that Serena had to go under that other athletes didn't have to go under. So Serena would be winning, and she was winning. So they doing all this and she's winning. You know what I mean? Not like she was losing, but she's winning and they're still saying all this criticism. So they just now, recently stopped saying it. But they have been saying it for so long that she had the wrong body type, that her butt was too big, her legs was too masculine, her arms was too, everything, just criticizing, right? So highlighting what her dominance means as a victory for young black girls in particular. So that's what that part of and Jamel Hill was talking about. And talking as far as Kaepernick, it's interesting. There's a lot of dynamics to really, delve into with that. I interviewed Eric Reed, who was his teammate, Dr. Harry Edwards, who was his advisor for the team. A lot of different people who were closer to him. Torrey Smith, who was his teammate. And it's interesting because you see a lot of criticism of Kaepernick, and this is my prediction. I actually even tweeted today. Yeah, this is my tweet today. I said it's interesting watching all of these NFL teams tweet out, quotes about Martin Luther King and and how much they, admire his nonviolent protests, but they didn't want to, hire Kaepernick. And that's just part, it's just interesting to me. Do you know what I mean? But I think that decades down the road, you're going to magically see people talk about Kaepernick completely different. Kind of like with Muhammad Ali. So when I interviewed Layla Ali, this is what she talked about. She was like, people didn't love my father when he was in his heyday in the 60s. When he said he didn't want to go to a war, you know what I mean? He joined the Nation of Islam, was hanging with Malcolm X, was talking about, racial things in the society and everything like that. He was like, he was public enemy #1. He's like, but now it's just amazing seeing people talk about him in these glowing terms. And they had statues and in museums and all of this stuff. So I predict that's the same thing is going to happen with Kaepernick. That's my prediction.
Do you think there should be programs implemented in predominantly African American schools on proper benefit?
Definitely, no question. Like that's what I've been doing so much, going to different places. So the conversation when I'm in an all-black school is different than what I'm doing here. You know what I mean? Like the part that I started off with, I stay there for a long time. You know what I mean? We do active activities or workshops to play out. Okay, don't do this, and you have to do this. You know what I mean? So like role play. You know what I mean? Like when they come up, it's not like the situation I just described, and they're actually in it. So then I actually show them, like, okay, now I'm going to show you, because in my situation, the police were cool. They were chilling. There was no, you know what I mean, type of thing. Now, have you ever seen the documentary, When They See Us, on Netflix? If you haven't seen that, please, you have to see it. Now, I was young when that happened. I spent all my summers in New York, either Harlem or Mount Vernon. So I remember when all that happened, I remember my grandmother being so upset. You know what I mean? And if you don't know the story, there was, 5 teenagers, they're accused of raping a white woman in the park, and everybody, all of a sudden, was for the death penalty. You know what I mean? The Trump took out an ad in the paper saying these monsters should get the death penalty. And everybody was sure that he did it, and they locked him up. They interrogated them without their parents there, no lawyer present. You know what I mean? Like a coerced confession. You're sleep deprivated, they don't give you any water, you're just like, okay, like I'll say whatever you want me to say, just, stop. And that's a technique that happens. So we go over particulars of things you don't do. Number one, don't ever talk to the police without your parents. Ever. Don't say anything until your parents come there. You know what I mean? Or don't say anything without a lawyer present. Don't answer any questions. Of course, there's everything, yes, sir, no, sir, but the part that's tough is like in a situation like Philando Castile. You know what I mean? He did everything right. Everything right. It's legal to carry a firearm in Minnesota. He announced it the same way that you're supposed to announce that you have a firearm in your possession, when a policeman is stopped. And as soon as he heard it, the policeman shot him 7 times. 7 times. His baby was in the back seat. You know what I mean? And he still had his seatbelt on. And the policeman shot him 7 times. So when you have situations like that, and you hear other people saying, oh, well, they just follow the rules and everything will be okay, you get a little frustrating, right? But there are different rules. That's just the reality of it. You don't want to hear it, and you don't want to act like it is, it is what it is. But there are different rules. So there's different ways that we have to conduct ourselves. So when I speak in this all-black school, the whole conversation is different. I mean, that's just, it's an unfortunate reality. Next question.
You spoke about your interactions, interviews with female athletes, but can you speak to the extent of athletes who are part of the LGBTQ+ community and the activism that you see there?
I think it's amazing. So, Shamika Holsclaw, does everybody know who Shamika Holsclaw is? All right, so she was like the female Jordan. That's what she was. She was on the cover of Slam magazine. If y'all don't know Slam magazine, it's I don't know how to explain it, y'all. Y'all know Slam magazine? All right, so she was on the cover of Slam magazine in like a New York Knicks uniform when she was coming out of college because everybody was like, yeah, she's good enough, she can play on the Knicks. I don't know if that was a slight to the Knicks. You know what I mean? Because I grew up with a Knicks fan, but she was the truth, right? So she talked about 2 different things. Speaking out about her sexuality and speaking out about her mental health. And so if you don't remember what happened with her while she was playing, she lost her grandmother and she kind of just broke down. She didn't want to play anymore. She didn't want anything. You know what I mean? And this was kind of before. See, now it's becoming a little, it's so crazy how things change like in just a few years. So now, you know, an athlete talking about their mental health is not looked at as, you know, a leper. Like, okay, but before, that's how it was. Because an athlete's supposed to be, you know, they can understand your ankle hurt, you know, something's wrong with your knee, but what do you mean mental health? Like something's wrong with his mind, with his brain, but you know what I mean? Then that's like they stay completely away from you, especially male athletes, you know? So you had a lot of guys who were, you know, not letting the world know about their real mental health issues. You know what I mean? And just trying to deal with it themselves, whether it's self-medicating or trying to figure out a way to mask it. You know what I mean? And so, and also with Shaniqua, she talked about the, you know, and things have changed. Like I said, in a few years. Now, you know, for an athlete to come out and say they're part of the LGBT community, and it's not as big of a deal as it was a few years ago. You know, but when she did, yeah, she was ostracized. And she talks about it. So, you know, and that's the thing, and I was with the Wizards while she was with the Mystics. So we started to be able to work together on things that, like I said earlier, that wasn't my issue, right? But I could support her and have empathy for something that's her issue. Does that make sense? So I've done different, you know, talks with her, in particular, different events with her, where we're focused on that issue itself. And all the time when we do it, there's somebody in the crowd afterwards that come to her, they're like, you know, listen, you've inspired me to be able to feel comfortable to either, you know, be true about who I am or be true about what I'm dealing with. And it's amazing to see, because people, you know, when you see somebody and they have the courage to be able to speak about something and you can see yourself in them, you know what I mean, that just gives you courage too. So that's another platform that athletes just, it's a blessing to be able to, you know, to be able to have that level of influence. All right, next question. All right, okay. All right, there we go.
Do you think police brutality is more of a systematic or cultural issue?
I think it's both. I think it's systematic and it's cultural. I think that the way that we police in general, I think needs a whole revamping, to be honest with you. So for instance, when I was growing up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? We knew all of the policemen there. Like they're community policing, where they lived in the community, where they policed, right? So they knew our parents, went to our churches. One of my best friends, his uncle was a policeman. Like, so they saw us, they called us by name. Like I literally knew all of them, you know? And they used to they were active in the community. So my mom used to drop me off at Central High School, and they had this forum where they're telling people, you know, telling young men how to, kind of like the conversation I said, you know, how to respond when you stop by the police, you know, giving them just good advice, good talks, have guest speakers, things like that. My mom used to take me, drop me off at Central High School. It was ran all by the police in the community. She was like, what time do you want me to pick him up? Like that was the level of interaction that we had with police. But then it changed. You know what I mean? Then it became more of, you know, policemen from outside places, and the goal started to be to suppress and control. And that's where things started changing. And all over the country, you know, it just changed. And I don't know why. I don't know why we would get away from community policing. You know what I mean? It's just completely different. And then the checks and balances were different. You know, and so if something is proven to not be working, you have to be able to, what's the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing and expecting different results. You have to change something. I don't know that's not my quote. Somebody said that. Who said that? Y'all help me out. Who said?
Robert Costi.
There we go. Okay, all right. I knew it wasn't me. I didn't want y'all to think I was trying to take somebody else's quote. That wasn't quoting myself. But you have to change things, right? So I think in the way that we change how we police, you know what I mean? You have to make adjustments. So, you know, the thought that a policeman can never be human and make a mistake, right? around in mainstream America, that's just the thought. If something happened, oh, well, it must be, the other person's fault. They say, okay, let's wait till the facts come out. But let's wait till the facts come out means, let's wait to see what this person did wrong to justify this person being killed. Do you know what I mean? So it's a mentality where police are human. You know what I mean? So, I have family members that are policemen. I have friends that are policemen that I grew up and went to school with. And a lot of times, what I like to do is bring policemen to the discussions in like the black schools. Because a lot of times, you have to see the humanness of somebody. And the only interaction that they have with somebody is when they're suppressing and controlling them. In a lot of cases, this is what policemen this is what they verbalize to me. In these programs, we don't have any interaction where we actually get to, see what they think and feel and things like that. We just know that we want to go home at the end of the night. And I'm like, well, yeah, they want to go home too. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to go home. So how can we best, create a situation where everybody goes home? That's why, I do with the programs. And it's interesting because you look at the feedback and it changes the perception of that a lot of policemen have to the people when they see them outside of the, like say, the closed forum, and they hear them express their thoughts and their feelings and how they feel. It's like they start looking at them differently. And that's the feedback that I've been getting from the different police departments. So, and a lot of times it's using the fact that I have a platform of being an athlete to be able to push for that. Do you know what I mean? So it's like being an athlete is a blessing. Absolute blessing to play 11 years in the NBA. Tell you I played with Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Like absolute stuff I could brag to my grandkids about, when I have grandkids. But there's a bigger purpose and a bigger cause. And that's why when you see people want to push for athletes to use their power, do you know what I mean? Sometimes it comes across a little bit too strong because, people ask me, should athletes be required to stand up for different things? Like, well, I wouldn't say required, that's too strong. You know what I mean? But they have a tremendous opportunity to be able to use their power for good. That's how it is. I know I'm talking long. Y'all just tell me when I need to stop. All right, one or two more questions. All right, because I can just kind of keep going. One or two more questions. Go for it.
Do you believe that players in the WNBA should be paid the same as players in the NBA on average?
I think they should definitely be paid more than they are. And with the new collective bargaining that they just passed, because they was going to go into a lockout, they increased their wages a lot, and which is good, but they still have a long way to go to where it should be. But they have to be able to, and this is just being honest, they have to be able to market them better. I mean, there'll be WNBA playoffs, and I go to the playoffs, and you don't even see it. Like, you have to search for it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're flipping through the channels, and you just happen to see, oh, it's the playoffs. You know what I mean? WNBA's playing in the finals, and they don't market it the way. Now, some places, like the Sparks and the New York Liberty, some places you go to the arena and it's filled and everything like that. Other places, it's like empty in there. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, how are y'all marketing this? Like, and that affects the salaries, that affects the wages, that affects everything. So I don't know what the answer to do is with that, but you could definitely improve on the market because the game itself is great. Like, it's not like it's an inferior product or anything like that. I mean, they might not be dunking the ball, but other than that, even though more are now, you know what I mean? But it's not an inferior product. So I would say they have to change the market. That's my opinion. More questions?
All right, so this is kind of like questions like all over the place, but like a lot of these discussions we have, they kind of end like with the kind of like it is what it is. That's just how it is. Like, how do we as a society kind of like change that narrative of like it is how it is? Because like I think social media is a great platform, but it almost seems as if you go into the comment section and it's just arguments about politics, how things should be. And obviously me, I don't have 100,000 followers. I can't reach out to people and share a good message. So like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, how do we as a society kind of, because it feels like being a good person is all I can do, but it feels like it's like not enough. So like as a society, how can we like change like what it is together?
I think that's a great question. And can y'all hear me? Is it all right? Y'all hear me okay? Oh, that's a little better. All right. I think as a society, I mean, there's strength in numbers. You know, I get that question a lot, you know, where, you know, younger people are saying, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have 1 million followers. What can I possibly do? And, you know, I go back to those young people who, after was it Parkland? I'm trying to think of what high school it was. It was Parkland? All right. After Parkland happened, they just organized. And they just got together, and then just together they started doing stuff. And they was like, okay, look, we cannot let this keep happening. You know what I mean? After every mass shooting, you know, nothing happens. You know, they say their thoughts and prayers, tweets out, the different, you know, politicians, and then that's it. And they were like, no, this can't be it. And so they just kept, they started doing little groups, and started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and getting different people. It's interesting because, I mean, I always go back to it, but y'all have a power that didn't exist back in the day, and that's social media. Like, y'all could create hashtags. Y'all could tell everybody in your whole school to hashtag one topic, and then it'll start trending, right? If everybody hashtag that one topic, I mean, because I've seen it happen. I've seen other schools do it. And it's amazing how, like, the power, y'all just have to recognize the power that y'all do have, you know? And even being able to, you know, there's certain, say something happens, right? Say something happens in your city, right? And you all have a discussion about it, and you all feel very strongly about it. It's not enough sometimes to just say, well, I'm a good person and I don't do what just happened. Sometimes that isn't enough. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to let your voice be heard that this doesn't represent us. And the entire school hashtags this, whatever this is, doesn't represent us. You know, because then with trending, and you know how media follows trends, because then you're going to get a reporter that comes over and says, okay, can I interview somebody at the school with what this school is so riled up about, and what this is what's going on all over the country. After Kaepernick took a knee, there was this one school in particular. Now, it happened all over the country, but there's one school that caught my eye in particular in Seattle. Gar something, right? But what's so impressive, though, the whole football team took a knee, right? And they didn't just take a knee like they were following the trend. They started verbalizing to the media why they were taking a knee and what was going on and what they didn't like, you know what I mean? And the thing about it is they were all white kids. There wasn't one black kid on the team. You know what I mean? And they was like, well, no, what we're doing is because we know that this and this and this is not right. Police brutality is not right. What's going on here is not right. So we don't want to sit. This is them saying, and you can look it up. I don't remember the name of the high school, but I just remember it was in Seattle. And they were like, no, we don't want to sit in our privilege and say, well, this doesn't affect us. We can say this isn't right for it to even happen in our city. You know, and there was something that happened with somebody was killed by the police or something like that. And that's just the power that you have. You know, and it's interesting. I've gone to different colleges. And, you know, I talked about it in the book where, so there's this college in Missouri. Y'all remember what happened in Missouri? Some adults do. Y'all don't remember. Okay, so what happened in Missouri, there's all these different racial incidents going on campus. Like all these different things happening. It was like, you know, it was like y'all remember Higher Learning? Y'all remember the movie Higher Learning? Maybe y'all remember Higher Learning, all right. All right, well, just us old people remember Higher Learning. But anyway, it was a movie that was showing a lot of racial things on a college campus. That's what Higher Learning is. It had Ice Cube and, you know, Busta Rhymes. Y'all know Busta Rhymes and okay, all right, y'all know Ice Cube. All right, cool, all right. It was a great movie, though, I promise you, it was good. But, so all this stuff was happening on Missouri's campus. You know, one group had something and they was all doing blackface. One group had a noose hanging on somebody's dorm, all this spray paint, all these different things going on, right? So the school was trying to get the school president to do something about it. You know what I mean? They're like, man, nothing is happening with this. Like they were pushing to try to get them to address it or anything like that, and they wouldn't address anything, right? So the whole first semester went and nothing was addressed. So then they connected with the football team then, right? And the football team tweeted out a picture with all of them in their uniform. You remember this, right? You remember? All right, they tweeted a picture of all of them in their uniforms saying that we are not going to stand for this. And then they threatened, they kind of hinted that they might boycott the next game if this isn't addressed. Just kind of hinted, right? So what's crazy is like within 48 hours, like the president was brought in front of the board. You know, they looked at him for negligence, and boom, he was fired. Boom, they started addressing the different issues. Like all this stuff happened. It was like boom, 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 like in 48 hours. But they were trying to do this the entire semester, right? So they just collectively did it, and they changed the entire culture of the entire university because all this stuff was going unchecked. So the reason why I'm telling you the story is that you have a voice and you have the ability to be able to get things done. Like, don't think that just because you're this age, you know, or that age, that you can't do anything. You do have a voice, right? And especially with social media. Like, I keep going back to social media because I've seen it, you know, I've seen it used in such bad ways, you know what I mean? And I've seen it used in positive ways. And you all just have so much power. And I think coming from everything that we're focused on today with celebrating Dr. King, right? Dr. King was all about empowering young people. He worked with SNCC. You know, if you look with SNCC and everything like that, they were the young people, and they were the ones, you know what I mean, at the lunch counters, you know what I mean, protesting, doing sit-ins and things of that nature. A lot of the different organizations, they didn't really want him to work with the young people. Y'all know that? So a lot of the different organizations, they were like, Dr. King was kind of ostracized for a little while because they're like, why are you working with these young people so much? You know, we are the organizations. We are the people who have been doing this for a long time. We're the ones that need to be on the front line. And he was like, well, no, the power is in the younger generation. Like, they're the ones who are going to take over. They're the ones who are going to be the next generation in power. So we have to influence them. And a lot of people were against that. See, now all different organizations will say like, oh yeah, we always supported Dr. King. You know, Dr. King, we was right there with him the whole time. And if you look historically and start looking it up, no, they weren't. They actually, for a while, look up him being suspended from the Baptist board of pastors. I can't think of the name of it, but it's like a Baptist big organization of pastors, and they suspended Dr. King. But they don't want to tell that now, but they did. Because he knew that the power and the focus should be with y'all, with young people. So if you don't hear anything else from today, understand that you have the power to be able to let your voices be heard. Now, I'm not here to say about what topic that you're letting your voice be heard on, but each topic, even ones that I disagree with, are important. Do you know what I mean? So don't think that you don't have the power. So that's all. I'll stop talking. But thank you so much for listening.